In World Cup history, there have been countries so small playing that's just crazy. Countries with populations the size of cities, some even smaller than neighborhoods, yet somehow their national team qualified for the biggest tournament in sport. So in this video, we're gonna see the 10 smallest countries to ever qualify for the World Cup. Starting with the 10th smallest, with only 3.2 million inhabitants. For comparison, this is the World Cup final stadium, and their entire population would fit in just 38 of them. And that is Wales. But they managed to qualify for 2 World Cups, the first one in 1958, when they made it out of the group stage, eliminating the current runners-up Hungary. But in the quarterfinals they faced Brazil, so Wales was eliminated. After that they didn't play it for decades, until in 2022 with Bale, Wales secured a spot at the World Cup again, but this time 2 defeats in the group stage sent them home. But Wales is gigantic compared to the other countries in this video. While they fit in 38 stadiums, other countries fit in less than 5. But now let's move on to the 9th smallest country. With a population of 3.1 million, it would fit into just 37 stadiums. For comparison, the US population would fill more than 4,000 stadiums. So nobody would expect this country called Bosnia to appear at a World Cup. But then everything changed in the early 2010s when Bosnia built a solid squad with Dzeko, Pjanic and qualified in 2014. They arrived at the tournament to prove they could go far, but in the first match, a defeat to Argentina. Everything came down to their second game against Nigeria, but a 1-0 defeat sent them crashing out in the group stage. And after that, Bosnia's national team started to decline badly. But in 2026, they made a comeback, reaching the qualifier playoffs and shocking the world by eliminating Wales and Italy. All of a sudden, Bosnia was back. Now, the 8th smallest country has 100,000 fewer people than Bosnia. Their population would fill the stadium just 36 times. So a lot of people had never even heard of them. But everything changed when Qatar was chosen to host the World Cup. They automatically secured a spot, but all their players played in the country's own league, and half of the national team played for the same club, literally. So they were far from favorites, and in the first match, 2-0 to Ecuador. But the next opponent wouldn't be any easier. Managed Senegal, who smashed them 3-1. To make things even worse, they still had to face the Netherlands, so another defeat came, being eliminated in last place. The countries will keep getting smaller and smaller, until we reach one whose entire population fits in just 2 stadiums. Now the next country has only 2.8 million people, which would fill the stadium just 34 times. And this country is also tiny in land area, being just an island in the Caribbean. So Jamaica's national team seemed doomed to be weak. But then back in the qualifiers for 1998, they made a huge investment in the national team, renewing the squad, the style of play, and even calling up foreign players with dual nationality. So in the qualifiers, they left behind teams like El Salvador, Costa Rica, and even managed to draw against Mexico, securing qualification for the World Cup. It was such a historic achievement that Jamaica declared that a national holiday. So they went for it, and in their first World Cup match, they faced Croatia, where Jamaica managed to score, but Croatia scored 3 times. Everyone was rooting for them to make it out of the group stage. But the next match was against Argentina, and it was a disaster, 5-0. They were eliminated, but even so, in the last match against Japan, Jamaica won. They went down fighting. Now the next country has a much smaller population. They used to be part of the former Yugoslavia, until in the 1990s it became an independent nation called Slovenia. With a population of only 2.1 million, they are way smaller. Their entire population would fill the stadium just 25 times. That's insane. To give you an idea, if they were a US city, Slovenia would only be the 5th largest. Even so, they still managed to qualify for 2 World Cups. The first one in 2002, but it was disappointment, losing every match. However, some years later, in 2010, they shocked the world. Their debut match was against Algeria, where near the end of the game, they did this.
Now Curran, that's good work, and Curran has scored! Slovenia's captain!
With that goal, Slovenia won 1-0, and in the next match they pulled off another surprise, a 2-2 draw against the United States, which made them finish that round at the top of the group. Then in their final game they faced England. England needed to win, but Slovenia only needed a draw to qualify. However, the English keeper kept saving everything, until Slovenia conceded a goal from a cross. With a 1-0 defeat, they dropped to 3rd in the group and were eliminated. Now, even smaller is the next country, which became one of the first underdogs in World Cup history, Northern Ireland. It's located right here, and its population of only 1.9 million people would fill the stadium just 23 times. Even so, they qualified for 3 World Cups, and with some incredible campaigns. Back in 1958, in a group with Germany, Czechoslovakia and Argentina, they defeated Czechoslovakia, drew with Germany, and qualified for the knockout stage. But their opponent in the next round was France, and there was no way around it. They were eliminated. Now, decades later, in 1982, they qualified again, and they made history, drawing with Yugoslavia, drawing with Honduras, and defeating the host country Spain. That made them qualify first place in the group. But when they reached the next round, they faced France, and once again the same ending, a French victory. After that, they only had one more appearance, but by then all the hype was gone. They were knocked out in the group stage. And Northern Ireland actually held a record for the smallest country for a long time, until that record was broken in 2006. In the opening round of the group stage, 2 national teams stepped onto the field to face each other, Sweden versus Trinidad and Tobago. A lot of people didn't even know where this country was. Here's South America, then zooming in, here's Venezuela, and even smaller over here in the corner is Trinidad and Tobago, home to only 1.5 million people. That means its entire population would fit into just 18 stadiums. That's wild. It seemed impossible for a country this small to qualify for the World Cup. But in 2005, they hired an experienced coach who had already managed Real Madrid. On top of that, they called up several players who were playing in England and Scotland. With that, they became stronger and managed to qualify through the playoffs. But against Ibrahimovic's Sweden, everyone thought they were gonna be thrashed. However, Trinidad showed their strength with pure defense, managing to hold off the Swedish attack to a draw, 0-0. But next they were gonna have an even bigger challenge, England. But Trinidad kept managing to hold off the attack. The first half ended level and the second half stayed the same way. 180 minutes had gone by and they still hadn't conceded a single goal. But in the 83rd minute, England finally broke through. That hit them hard, and they ended up conceding another goal at the end. There was still one final match against Paraguay, but they ended up losing once again, crashing out in the group stage. But after Trinidad broke the record, 3 even smaller countries managed to qualify. And now things got crazy, cause if Trinidad fit into 18 stadiums, the next country would fit into just 6.5. It has a population of only 500,000. To give you an idea, 29 cities in the United States have a larger population. Look at where it's located. It's a bunch of islands in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean called Cape Verde. But people started hearing about this country when, in September 2025, they stepped onto the field against Cameroon in a decisive match. Whoever won was guaranteed a spot to the World Cup. A lot of people thought Cape Verde had no chance, but in recent years the country invested heavily in football, building a professional structure and also going after players who were born in Europe but were eligible to represent them, like the number 9 striker Daylon Livramento, who was born in the Netherlands. Even so, Cameroon was still the favorites. But in the second half, Daylon Livramento sprinted all the way from the defensive half, went past everyone and smashed the ball into the back of the net. After that, Cape Verde managed to hold the score with huge saves from the keeper. Final score 1-0. Cape Verde was in the World Cup. But the next country has even fewer people than Cape Verde. It's a small island in northern Europe with 400,000 inhabitants. Its entire population would fill the World Cup final stadium a little less than 5 times. To give you an idea, their biggest local stadium has a capacity of just 10,000 people, and its national league is considered semi-professional. So Iceland going to the World Cup seemed impossible. But in the early 2000s, they started investing heavily in football, building indoor fields to protect from the cold and even bringing in UEFA coaching courses for young people. Because of that, football started developing and many players began getting signed abroad. So when the UEFA Euro 2016 came, Iceland showed what they were capable of, reaching the quarterfinals after eliminating England along the way, only being defeated by the home country France. But their real dream was qualifying for the World Cup. So in the qualifiers for 2018, they managed to beat Croatia and Turkey to finish first. That's how Iceland qualified, and their first opponent was Argentina, the reigning runners-up. And they showed their strength once again, finishing a match 1-1. It was virtually a win for Iceland, who now just needed to defeat Nigeria. But in the second half, Nigeria crushed their hopes, scoring twice. Now their only chance of reaching the round of 16 was by defeating Croatia, but with a goal right at the end, Croatia sent them home. It seemed impossible for anyone to break their record, until for 2026, a country twice as small qualified. To give you an idea, this country's entire population would fit in not 4, not 3, but just 2 full stadiums. With 180,000 inhabitants, they have the same population as this small area in New York City. And this country is Curaçao. It's located on this island near Venezuela. Look at its size compared to Wales, the 10th country on this list. So if they relied only on players born on the island, there wouldn't be enough talent to call up. But Curaçao came up with a strategy. They decided to find players born in Europe, more specifically in the Netherlands, who had Curaçaoan roots, and convince them to represent the national team. That's how Curaçao managed to build a team that was almost 100% Dutch. The number 10 Bacuna came from Groningen in the Netherlands, the number 11 Antonis came from PSV's academy, and the list goes on. Why the Netherlands? Well, Curaçao is part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands, with a plot twist. So in the World Cup qualifiers, they went all in, crushing Haiti, defeating Jamaica, and defeating other weaker national teams. And since the strongest countries there didn't play the qualifiers, the path became much easier for Curaçao. So they only needed to finish first in their group to qualify directly. 180,000. It's a record that will never be broken. So what did you think of this video? If you enjoyed it, I think you're gonna like this one too. Thanks for watching and bye!